You're not going to believe this, but I just got a phone call from an old friend that used to rent. She used to rent from me, and I haven't seen her or heard from her in years. And I got to talking with her, and I got to laughing. We both got laughing about something that happened a long time ago. I used to own a mobile home park, trailer park, and I had several tenants in there, and I had a dumpster at the end of the trailer park so that everyone that rented from me, they could take their trash and put it in the dumpster. Well, as usual, being a landlord, nobody ever actually put it in the dumpster. They'd set the trash bags on the side of the dumpster. And so every Sunday afternoon, I would get in my little yellow Volkswagen Beetle that had, it was a really cute little fun car. And it had one of those long test tubes with a little daisy in it. It was one of the decorations that came with the car. Now, this was a few years back when the new Beetles came out, and they all came with that little test tube with that flower in it. Well, so on Sundays, I'd have to ride out to my little trailer park, and I would take a rake and a box of trash bags with me, and I would clean up all the garbage from the cats and the dogs that spread the bags. I'd put notices on everybody's door, please put your trash inside the dumpster. Nobody apparently either couldn't read or was willing to follow directions. And so every Sunday, I'd ride out there. Well, the neighborhood kids would see that little yellow Volkswagen Beetle coming down that dirt road, and they would all come running because they knew that when that little yellow car came out there, that I'd pay all those kids $1 a bag. I'd give them all a whole handful of trash bags, and I'd tell them, I pay you $1 for every bag of trash. So they put on little rubber gloves, and they'd get their trash bag, and they'd help me pick up all the trash and put it in the dumpster. And for every bag that they filled up, I would give them $1. Well, of course, these little kids, they'd run home and get their bag of trash out of the kitchen and everything, and I'd still give them $1. So each kid in the neighborhood would end up with $5 or $6, for helping me. And it was just a goodwill in situation. They really weren't helping. They were making more of a mess. But they loved that little yellow Volkswagen. Because I'd come down, they'd all be punching each other in the arm. They go, punch buggy, no returns, all that kind of thing. Well, and when I'd get out there, all of them wanted to get inside that car. They were just fascinated with that little test tube and that flower. I mean, it was fun. These kids were absolutely adorable, and I had to be out there every Sunday, clean all this garbage up around this dumpster. Well, one Sunday, I didn't have box trash bags with me, so I stopped at a corner gas station. And I went in and I grabbed this $1 million box trash bags. You know how everything is more expensive at the gas station. But while I was standing there on the counter, there was this whole tray, like with 24, these little mini test tubes with little daisies, little flowers sticking out the top of them, just like was in my car. But these little mini ones. And mine, of course, in the car was this big one, this decoration that came from Volkswagen. And I kept looking at them. I thought, them kids would love that. They love that thing in my car. Oh, I'm going to. So I say to the cashier, I said, I'll take all of these. She says, how many you want? I said, no, I'm going to buy the whole box. And she said, you sure? I said, yeah, I want the whole box, the whole tray. So I bought 24 of these things, right? Because there's about 12 kids out there, and they're going to have a big kid, a big brother or sister. So I'm just going to buy the whole case of it and take it out there. Just be a sweet little thing to give to the kids, right? So I buy it, and this cashier, she looks at me like I've got two heads and I'm talking Chinese. And I just couldn't, what's the big deal? I mean, I know that these are meant to everyone to buy one or two, but I'm buying the whole tray of them. Sell them to me. What the hell's the problem? So finally she does. I thought, weird girl, and I got in my car and I get out to the little trailer park. I park my car. All the kids come running. I said, kids, I got a little treat for you. I said, now look, these are glass, so you can't play with them. They're decorations. You take them inside, go take them home, and you put them in your little windowsill in your bedroom or something so you'll have a little test tube like I have in my car. They, oh yeah. So they all get one. I said, you take that home first, and then you come back and we'll pick up trash, and I'll pay you $1 a bag. So I handed them all out, and they wanted a red one, this one wanted a blue one, and they run home, and they take their little test tubes home. It was this little glass test tube with a little tiny flowers, just about maybe 2 inches tall. Well, we're out there cleaning up trash, and Mrs. Sturdivant, one of my tenants, she comes walking out there, and I kind of teased and referred to her as the mayor, because anything going on in the neighborhood, she kept me up to date. And she said, hey, Miss Dolly. I said, hey. She said, Miss Dolly, she said, you're a great landlord. She said, I'm so happy living out here. You're a really good landlord. I said, well, I'm glad. She said, but you've done something that just not okay. I said, oh, well, what's that? And she said, Miss Dolly, did you give? And she shows me one of them little test tubes, little flowers. Did you give these to the kids? I said, I did. I said, I know they're glass. I told all the kids to take them home, put them in their little windowsill, that they couldn't play with them. They weren't toys, they were decorations. Miss Dolly, Miss Dolly. I said, what? She said, do you know what these are? I said, they're little decorations like my Volkswagen Beetle, my big one. She said, Miss Dolly, these are crack pipes. I said, huh? She said, Miss Dolly, these are crack pipes. This is what crackheads buy. That's what they use for crack cocaine. I said, no. She said, yeah. I said, I didn't know. She said, I know you didn't know it. She said, but who did you give these to? I said, all the damn kids. So we spent all afternoon going door to door because some were from the little trailer park, but some were from down the road further. We had to go. She went with me, went door to door, knocking on the door. I said, hi. And one lady's like, I wonder where my kid got his crack pipe from. It's like, oh my Lord. So the rest of the time I owned that mobile home park, everybody called me the landlord that gave the kids the crack pipes. I didn't know no better though. But still, I'm kind of stuck with it. So when she called me today and we got to talking, of course, that's the thing she remembers the most about all those years ago, is that I'm the landlord that gave those kids, all the neighborhood kids, a crack pipe. So from now on, when a cashier looks at me like I'm crazy, got two heads and talking Chinese, I stop and I ask questions. Because had I let that cashier give me a little guidance, I'd have never been known as the landlord who handed out crack pipes to neighborhood kids.